had shrunk to that. Dogs and a bush were the whole of it. So, feeling quit of a vast mountain of illusion, and very naked in consequence, he called his hounds to him and strode through the park. So long had he been secluded, writing and reading, that he had half forgotten the amenities of nature, which in June can be great. When he reached that high mound, whence on fine days half of England, with a slice of Wales and Scotland thrown in, can be seen, he flung himself under his favourite oak tree, and felt that if he need never speak to another man or woman so long as he lived, if his dogs did not develop the faculty of speech, if he never met a poet or a princess again, he might make out what years remained to him in tolerable content. Here he came then, day after day, week after week, month after month, year after year. He saw the beech trees turn golden, and the young ferns unfurl. He saw the moon sickle and then circular. He saw... But probably the reader can imagine the passage which should follow, and how every tree and plant in the neighbourhood is described, first green, then golden, how moons rise and suns set, how spring follows winter and autumn summer, how night succeeds day and day night, how there is first a storm and then fine weather, how things remain much as they are for 200 or 300 years or so, except for a little dust and a few cobwebs, which one old woman can sweep up in half an hour. A conclusion which, one cannot help feeling, might have been reached more quickly by the simple statement that time passed. Here the exact amount could be indicated in brackets, and nothing whatever happened. But time, unfortunately, though it makes animals and vegetables bloom and fade with amazing punctuality, has no such simple effect upon the mind of man. The mind of man, moreover, works with equal strangeness upon the body of time. An hour, once it lodges in the queer element of the human spirit, may be stretched to 50 or 100 times its clock length. On the other hand, an hour may be accurately represented on the timepiece of the mind by 1 second. This extraordinary discrepancy between time on the clock and time in the mind is less known than it should be, and deserves fuller investigation. But the biographer, whose interests are, as we have said, highly restricted, must confine himself to one simple statement. When a man has reached the age of 30, as Orlando now had, time when he is thinking becomes inordinately long. Time when he is doing becomes inordinately short. Thus Orlando gave his orders, and did the business of his vast estates in a flash, but directly he was alone on the mound under the oak tree, the seconds began to round and fill, until it seemed as if they would never fall. They filled themselves, moreover, with the strangest variety of objects, for not only did he find himself confronted by problems which have puzzled the wisest of men, such as what is love, what friendship, what truth, but directly he came to think about them, his whole past, which seemed to him of extreme length and variety, rushed into the falling second, swelled it a dozen times its natural size, coloured it 1,000 tints, and filled it with all the odds and ends in the universe. In such thinking, or by whatever name it should be called, he spent months and years of his life. It would be no exaggeration to say that he would go out after breakfast a man of 30, and come home to dinner a man of 55 at least. Some weeks added a century to his age, others no more than 3 seconds at most. Altogether, the task of estimating the length of human life, of the animals we presume not to speak, is beyond our capacity, for directly we say that its age is long, we are reminded that it is briefer than the fall of a rose leaf to the ground. Of the two forces which alternately, and what is more confusing still, at the same moment, dominate our unfortunate numbskulls, brevity and dieternity, Orlando was sometimes under the influence of the elephant-footed deity, then of the gnat-winged fly. Life seemed to him of prodigious length, yet even so it went like a flash. But even when it stretched longest and the moments swelled biggest, and he seemed to wander alone in deserts of vast eternity, there was no time for the smoothing out and deciphering of those scored parchments which 30 years among men and women had rolled tight in his heart and brain. Long before he had done thinking about love, the oak tree had put forth its leaves and shaken them to the ground a dozen times in the process. Ambition would jostle it off the field, to be replaced by friendship or literature. And as the first question had not been settled, what is love, back it would come at the least provocation, or none, and hustle books or metaphors of what one lives for into the margin, there to wait till they saw their chance to rush into the field again. What made the process still longer was that it was profusely illustrated, not only with pictures, as that of old Queen Elizabeth, laid on her tapestry couch in rose-coloured brocade with an ivory snuff-box in her hand and a gold-hilted sword by her side, but with scents, she was strongly perfumed, and with sounds, the stags were barking in Richmond Park that winter's day. And so, the thought of love would be all ambered over with snow and winter, with log fires burning, with Russian women, gold swords and the bark of stags, with old King James's slobbering and fireworks and sacks of treasure in the holds of Elizabethan sailing ships. Every single thing, once he tried to dislodge it from its place in his mind, he found thus cumbered with other matter, like the lump of glass which, after a year at the bottom of the sea, is thrown about with bones and dragonflies, and coins and the tresses of drowned women. Another metaphor, by Jupiter, he would exclaim as he said this, which will show the disorderly and circuitous way in which his mind worked, and explain why the oak tree flowered and faded so often before he came to any conclusion about love. And what's the point of it, he would ask himself? Why not say simply in so many words? And then he would try to think for half an hour, or was it 2 years and a half, how to say simply in so many words what love is. A figure like that is manifestly untruthful, he argued, for no dragonfly, unless under very exceptional circumstances, could live at the bottom of the sea, and if literature is not the bride and bedfellow of truth, what is she? Confound it all, he cried. Why say bedfellow when one's already said bride? Why not simply say what one means and leave it? So then he tried saying the grass is green and the sky is blue, and so to propitiate the austere spirit of poetry, whom still, though at a great distance, he could not help reverencing. The sky is blue, he said. The grass is green. Looking up, he saw that, on the contrary, the sky is like the veils which 1,000 Madonnas have let fall from their hair, and the grass fleets and darkens like a flight of girls fleeing the embraces of hairy satyrs from enchanted woods. Upon my word, he said, for he had fallen into the bad habit of speaking aloud, I don't see that one's more true than another. Both are utterly false. And he despaired of being able to solve the problem of what poetry is and what truth is, and fell into a deep dejection. End of section 5.